SMT Nation, we back. We have two pieces of news, one out of Verizon, the second from T-Mobile. We'll cover both in today's video in that sequence. I'll link both articles in the description for you guys to check out later if you like. All right, so to start things off first with the Verizon news, they have achieved their first C-band trials using 200 megahertz of spectrum. Okay, so this one was dated from today at the time of this recording. The announcement, I guess, displays or demonstrates completed lab trials using 200 megahertz of C-band spectrum to provide, quote, remarkable 5G speeds. I'm sure it was remarkable. Got to throw that in there. With the trial now complete, Verizon can begin commercial deployment in the near future. The company on track to cover 175 million people with C-band by the end of this year. I'd say they're probably going to hit that. They might even exceed it slightly as they continue to work towards early clearing other PAs as well. So we'll see. They're pacing pretty quickly, folks. Now with this, with some markets currently at 100 megahertz of spectrum with the early clearance with A Block, they own 100 megahertz, but they've been letting AT&T use 40 megahertz of it. So we've been seeing a lot of places with 60, but they have been early clearing some of the B Block, allowing them to get over to that 100 megahertz mark. They probably feel like they're knocking on the door of their full channel depth in all their markets. They've got 140 to 160 megahertz in quite a few places. Also in rural America, we see more like 180, 200 megahertz. So this makes sense. This allows them to provide more capacity on air. You know, the fixed wireless access is going to be a big piece of their business. You know, we're hearing speculation of them using it for backhaul and using it for home internet and mobile traffic. So they're going to be looking to monetize it, folks. They spent a lot of money on C-band and they're going to deploy it. All right. So, you know, you don't spend $45 billion, including on top of that, you'd be adding clearing costs for, you know, moving it from satellite over to terrestrial cellular. You know, you're going to want to use it as much as you can. So 140 megahertz, like in my market, for example. Now, for the places that are going to have 200, they're going to have two channels of 200 of 100 megahertz, right? That's the way they're going to do it. Today's gear, when we look at like handsets and modems and stuff like that, I think the newest modems are probably going to be doing like, I think, 4 carrier aggregation on the 5G standalone side. So this news is 100% correlated to the fact that Verizon is probably going to be launching their standalone 5G network at the time where they can get to that spectrum depth and clear the rest of the spectrum and C-band. They got to wait for it or pay to have it early cleared. Really got to motivate those companies to do it in satellite. So we'll see what happens. We'll check. I mean, if they're doing this right now in trial and they completed the lab testing, I think less than a year is probably accurate. I would say that probably Q2 of next year, 2023, we'll be seeing this in certain places because they'll be approaching the December 2023 where all of the C-band is going to clear. But they may want to kind of, you know, clear things early. Who knows? Pay those costs, get certain markets lit up, or they might just wait it out. They've already spent a lot of money, and you know, the financial situation right now, economically across the country, you know, everybody's looking to save money and reduce spending. So maybe we'll see. We'll be tracking this. But I can tell you guys right now, in terms of this segment of the article, strongest spectrum portfolio, eh, it's arguable, right? I do think they do have a very dynamic spectrum portfolio. I think more so than the strongest. I guess it just depends how you execute. Because the way I look at Verizon is like this: they're not interested in doing anything else with low band, right? There's no celebration in low band for Verizon. They finished band 13 eons ago. That's technically why they're here, and they've got like the network, the largest network in the country. They covered the country with the most coverage. Pretty much at this point for them, it's a focus on mid band in the case of like C band, and then in some markets they got CBRS. And moving forward, they're going to be building out millimeter wave into more cities with more depth. And I think that's where things actually distinguish Verizon from the rest of the companies. They have, you know, 1600, 1700 megahertz of millimeter wave. Sometimes people call this high band. I've just always referred to it as millimeter wave. And that is spectrum that they actually build. Like they install nodes everywhere within their markets that they've started that project. Like Cleveland, for example. Vegas is another market where they have substantial millimeter wave builds. Neighborhoods are covered, City blocks are covered. They litter them all over the place. They cluster them. They put consecutive sites. It's really impressive. And then they also have, their sub-6 spectrum or whatever. And, for that, we're talking about like the AWS, PCS, and then the C-band and the CBRS. So I don't know if they have the most spectrum. I think that might be T-Mobile simply because, they have their spectrum plus they have everything from Sprint. They didn't really give anything up. And they have the most mid-band in that case. AT&T's got a decent holdings too. They don't do fixed wireless, so they probably don't feel the pressure to have more than anybody. But it's not the whole story. Having the most spectrum does not indicate network excellence, nor does it indicate the most capacity. You have to upgrade those sites with all of your spectrum. Nobody's building out millimeter wave like Verizon. And they're the ones that are leveraging that in a lot of arenas, in a lot of big cities, even in suburban areas. We're seeing them, litter those things all over the place, and they're selling home internet and, providing offloading of wireless traffic, mobile traffic. So that's where I think their advantage is. The best network in 5G is going to be the densest network, where you have the most sites that are upgraded with all this millimeter wave and all this mid band. The story is playing out now in front of us. It's not done by a long shot. But I could tell you guys right now, there are a couple of problems with Verizon that you got to discuss, right? The fact that there are a couple of plans that don't include access to the C band. I think in the future, it would be wise for Verizon to reconsider this. To have a large portion of your customers who are on like Welcome Unlimited or Start Unlimited to not have access to it makes zero sense, right? So they're going to be on the channels that are skinnier. They're going to be on the channels that don't have as much capacity. Their hope is that those customers upgrade to a more premium plan. I don't like that approach, generally speaking, because their network, they need the most people on their fastest, most capacitive channels as possible. So I don't know. I don't know if it's wise to do that, but who knows if that plays out for them in terms of people upgrading. All right, so this is interesting, and there's a couple different things there you guys can comment on. Go ahead and drop me some lines in the comment section. All right, last piece of news, and this one will be brief. T-Mobile strikes deal to unload legacy Sprint wireline biz to Cogent for $1. Who sells a business asset for $1? T-Mobile does, and there actually is some sense to this. It actually makes sense. They sold the business asset, what's known as, I guess this would be their transport business. I don't know if you guys know about this. Some of you might. The transport business that they've inherited through Sprint. This is a Sprint legacy wireline, which is designed to just carry network traffic. They're going to go ahead and sell it to Cogent for $1. And in return, Cogent is giving T-Mobile, I guess, a sweetheart deal in which they're going to, you know, give T-Mobile access to some of this other routing traffic. And then, you look at this, this is going to help Cogent more than it's going to help T-Mobile. T-Mobile wants to focus on their core business, which is mobile and fixed wireless access. They want to sell their Magenta lines and Magenta MAX. They want to sell their home internet, and they don't want to worry about stuff like this. Who knows if it was even really profitable for them? You guys could see it's quite a bit of route miles, right? It's a backbone that runs through the whole country. I'm pretty sure it's touching every state. I'm looking here, although I don't see it in Puerto Rico. I do kind of see it in part of Maine there at the tippy tip. I think it's in every state, right? It runs right through Cleveland and all that. All right, so this is a big network, and they didn't see it as a part of their future or them upgrading it or building on it, so they just went ahead and did this. And what this is going to do is allow them to get a good deal with Cogent for in agreement to get transit services across the country. So they're basically trading it for a good deal. All right. Now it says here, according to the 8K filing, $350 million in equal monthly installments during the first year after the deal's close, $350 million in equal monthly installments over the subsequent 42 months. So this is, what are we talking about here? Almost a 4-year deal. It says here, Cogent and T-Mobile expect to close the deal prior to December 2023. Okay, so there you have it. And I'm sure this is going to be some kind of a financial write-off of some sort. Maybe T-Mobile writes it on the books and they take a loss on it, and it saves them some money on a tax burden, some kind of an expense or loss. And then, it gives them financial benefits in a way. Hey, whatever it takes for them to make a better network, they can take the capital that they'll be saving on this or whatever and use it to build out their network, or I don't know. They probably going to do some corporate shuffling and whatever. I don't know, whatever these corporations do. But it wasn't something in their future, and it wasn't something they wanted to operate. They focus on the core business, focus on marketing, focus on networking, and all of that stuff. I kind of like it for them. They weren't doing anything with it anyways, and whatever. Just an update to that, I suppose. Comment down below. You are the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard. Tell me what you think of these stories. Like, share, subscribe for more. Turn on the bell notification icon to never miss an upload. Links in the description for my Patreon, my Twitter handle, and my Gmail address for all business inquiries. Thanks for watching. See you all in the next one. Peace.